What's up, everybody, and welcome to another ShawnSetGO video. Today we're going to be talking about some of the 11.1 changes, or the season 2 changes that are coming with a number of dungeons, kind of show the differences and changes to be expected, talk about some of the negatives, positives that people have been talking about, but also maybe some of our thoughts overall about some of the intentions of Blizzard right now with some of these changes. Now, a lot of you have probably already seen a lot of these. I wouldn't say give it a universal stamp of approval or disapproval, but there are some points that I want to point out. I'm probably not going to hit all of them, but let me know what are the major ones I miss, because I do want to address them in a future video. My next video is likely going to be on, I do need to do a little bit more research on it, but it's going to be on professions in 11.1. So that'll be coming soon. So let's jump into this video, however, which is going to be the data mine changes for Rookery and season 2. So with these, a number of these, there are a number of obviously new mechanics on the first and third bosses is what they report, but I'm going to talk about mainly the first. So with this, as you may or may not know, the boss has this rotating laser that will go around. With this phase, they're going to also, it says now deals the AoE damage. This seems to be a universal thing that happens in WoW Dungeons as of late, which is this AoE damage. I'm sorry, healers. But then also that you're going to be healing on top of that, and grounding bolt strikes the locations with the grounding bolt, inflicting damage to all enemies within 8 yards. So you're going to have things to dodge as well on top of that. So rotating laser beams and that, and then on top of that, it says there's going to be more stuff to dodge. It says crashing thunder summons a tempest that crashes down new and then unleashes wild lightning towards players. So just a lot of things going on all at once. Is this a universal bad? I don't know. I mean, this in a lot of ways, these dungeons are your first approach to some of these mechanics later on. Maybe this is for the better if this is going to keep on being the trend. Is it my favorite trend? No, I haven't been a big fan of more AoE essentially. I don't mind avoidable AoE, if it's ranged, but basically unavoidable AoE damage that you're going to be dealing with. Kind of just putting a lot of weight on the healer seems to be the kind of the universal trend that we see. I did want to pull up a comment that I saw. It says that people just read the title and complained. It says they made boss 1 have stuff to dodge during the laser and a bit of a heal check to it. I can understand dismissing it, but you're also putting a lot of weight on healers and not necessarily, you're putting weight on other people, of course, to do more during that phase. But I would say that, not that everyone struggled with that phase, but I wouldn't say that phase was easy peasy for everybody either. So I don't know if making the difficulty there was the way to do it. It says boss 3, they just made the fight make more sense. The mechanics make it easier. Just lead the boss lasers into it. So boss 3, it seems like basically you can have 4 people targeted by the Storm Rider's charge, and it makes it a little bit more easier instead of just having, I think, 1 person who is designated to it. So giving more to there. So it's kind of like an offset, like the first boss may kill some groups, but maybe by the time you get to the last boss, it feels more fair. So it kind of seems like almost like a offsetting of a balance. Do you want to put all that weight in the first? I don't know, but at least it seems to be sort of like an arc of attention there that's been given. But of course, that universal AoE damage is the way. I don't know if that's what I love to see, at least in dungeons, in my opinion. So second one we're going to talk about is the data mine changes for Theater of Pain. Now, for those of you who are aware of this dungeon, not a lot of people loved it. There are some people who didn't mind it. I'm kind of in between on liking it, disliking it. I think it had a lot of neat mechanics, but a lot of times the neat mechanics were outweighed by the difficulty. There's a fun slope, right? And as things get more difficult, that fun goes down because instead of being like a gimmick you enjoy, it becomes sort of a burden. So the first comment that I saw says, I hate when there's obvious enrage effects that I can't remove just to call buff something else and give it a different visible effect. So let's talk about what it's saying exactly. So specifically, let me see if I can have Control F do my job for me. So this is because all the bosses get some damage, and it says amps both tank and bolt cast. Don't forget about the boss's special abilities at 50% health, as well as Decia's Enrage can no longer be trivialized by having a soothe effect. So basically, previous things that have been essentially a mechanic for certain classes are being removed. So now you're just kind of forced to deal with it. So it's like, it might be like, well, now you just don't have to have those classes in the mythics. This is great for everybody, right? But it's like, well, Enrage as an effect, it says gains an absorb shield equal to 30% of our maximum health. So what does this just mean? This means the fight's going to be longer. This means it's going to take a lot more damage, and you're going to be dealing with all of these other mechanics a little bit more. So it's kind of one of the sad effects that we see with these dungeons, where it's just like, I don't know if making this approachable to everybody is the way, because in a way you're kind of disabling one class for the betterment of everybody else. And I don't know if that trade-off is what people are looking for, because it feels like you're kind of hamstringing one class, and maybe the other people can pick up the slack, but I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that helps that one class, or it kind of makes that one class just resent doing that dungeon, because it's like, well, I used to be able to do this and now I can't. So that's kind of sad. The other thing here, obviously, I mean, this is what I said before. Look at all this new AoE damage. 6-second AoE damage, consistently place swirlies under you for 6 damage. And then right here, so Noxious Spores, ability that now deals AoE damage over 6 seconds. Searing Death, Sethel's ultimate, now deals AoE damage to all players over 12 seconds. Mighty Smash, Decia's ultimate ability now does one big AoE hit to all players and slows movement speed. So it seems like really the only thing you can do is just more DPS. And I know that's kind of a meme in this game. I'm totally aware of its existence, but at the same time, it's like unavoidable AoE damage has never felt good, doesn't feel good. In a way, it's just a heal check. But as the difficulty amps up, it also becomes a DPS check. And then on top of that, with those things, it becomes also a self-survivability check. And when tanks are getting nerfed, and their survivability is nerfed, then it kind of cascades down. So if any one of those essentially drops from that, you can't survive, or it's going to be difficult to survive with only 2 out of 3. So you could have a good healer, good DPS, but if the tank is not doing well, if they're struggling, then everything falls out. So it's like, I don't like these mechanics that essentially is the leg of a 3-legged stool. You know, and you cut one out, it's like it's possible to balance on 2, but I just don't think that it's good business to be doing that constantly. The third one we're going to talk about today is the Cinderbrew Meadery. So there were some changes coming with season 2 for Cinderbrew Meadery as well. Let's take a look at the comments here. So it says right here, it says, I think people aren't realizing how annoying this dungeon is. The first part of the dungeon is to the first boss involves a whole mechanic where the big rat mob knocks all the caster mobs out of melee. Just think of the implications there. Worse, if big rat knocks casters into more rats, you end up pulling 12 casters by accident. The first boss requires DPS to kite the mobs around until you're able to kill them with the cart. They spawn in all directions and come booking for you. This is annoying for both DPS and healers. Additionally, healers have to continuously heal because of the group wide rot damage. The darkness cart section will single-handedly be the worst Mythic Plus mechanic ever created. On M0, people zerged through the first section because it was easy and you could just run and ignore some of those mobs. I'm sure the meta way to do that was to pull so you stay out of the spawn area and just slowly LOS to how ridiculous it is. So let's take a look at something about what let's talk about. So with that, you can see here this pre-first boss is what a lot of people have been talking about, and now you can see that Thirsty now increases attack and casting speed by 50%, was 25%. Volatile Keg, damage reduced by 10%, so that's somewhat reduced. And then Mean Mug, range increased to 40 yards, whereas it was melee. So good luck. You're not going to be able to, unfortunately, kite this. Now, a lot of people have said that in good groups, kiting is never necessary in WoW. I beg to differ. I think that more and more kiting is becoming less of this mechanic you can do to sort of cheese certain abilities to kind of avoid it, and something neat that the community has done with certain bosses, and now is more and more becoming a thing. Whereas kiting is how we avoid those dangerous melee hits, getting too much damage at once, and then now AoE being more and more present, to where it's unavoidable AoE. You can't avoid it just by range. It's going to be happening a lot more. So it's kind of like these things that are going, here's the ways that people have avoided these in the past. We're going to make sure you avoid these, but kind of hamstring everybody else in the process, to make it more challenging. And then that's the way it feels, at least, that people have to kind of struggle because of this. So just a couple more here. I'm going to scroll up here to the top. Here we go. They buffed the worst pulls for tanks. Surely there is zero chance they don't massively buff tank survivability with the changes they are adding in every dungeon. And this is way they made the bleed unkiteable. In the magic tankbuster instant cast, dwarf paladin with special BOP and bringing cauterize says hello, I guess. But remember, don't overreact, guys. It's not out yet. So, I mean, I think that is the one thing to kind of keep into mind when it comes to stuff like this, is that, yes, it's not out yet. But if this is the intent, like if this is their first intent, I don't think we should take changes lightly. You know, if the community reaction to stuff like this is negative, is Blizzard willing to make the changes before release? Additionally, if the changes start out as this, then what are the intentions of Blizzard with these changes? Like why are these things kind of coming up again and again and again? I'm not going to universally say that all these changes are bad. There's a number of decreases in there. There's a number of reductions in there, and a number of cast time increases, you know, giving people more time to react to these things. But with some of these, and I mentioned mainly just highlights from these 3 dungeons, can we expect to be seeing these with the rest? You know, these are the ones that have been data mined, but there are more dungeons that are going to be coming with season 2. So these aren't the only ones out there. These are just the ones that people have put out there. So what can we expect? What are we thinking we're going to see? And then for the ones that I mentioned, let me know in the comments. What do you think are the solution to these? What do they need to fix with these? Personally, I think that, you know, dungeons like Theater of Pain, you know, they are like really a killing point for a number of people, as far as, are they going to do Mythic for season 2? But at the same time, there was a lot of fun parts about that dungeon that just kind of made people wean off of that dungeon and dislike it towards the end. So I really do hope that we can see some of these dungeons go back to how they felt previously, instead of just kind of harking on points to make it difficult. I think the running point that I see a lot is that, why are they tuning dungeons for MDI? Like, why tune it for MDI? Let's make the dungeons doable and fun, and accessible, but also make the challenge reasonable. I think that's the main thing. Make it reasonable for people wanting to do mythics, and then scale it to Oblivion for people who are, you know, MDIs and sweats. Like, that's totally fine. But I think there's not really an existing balance, or there hasn't been a system implemented to make it seem like that's going to happen. So hope this video was helpful for you. At least hope it was informative for you. Like I said, new videos coming along the way. Thank you guys for all the support as per usual. Make sure you like and subscribe, guys. If we got subscribers for how many views you guys have been so awesome in providing, we would be in the 10Ks, 20Ks, 30Ks. So drop a subscribe, join us for the live streams for We have in live Q&As. We talk about things, we discuss things. I make these videos typically live as well. Typically one take, just as I do here, just because I have one train of thought, and once I lose it, it's gone. So, but until next time, guys, I hope to catch you in the next one, but be safe out there. I'll see you. Peace.